I work in advocacy, so I'm really involved.
Okay, great. Well, that's fantastic. Well, I'm very sorry to hear about the issues. I'll open up to commissioners who have questions or.
How long have you lived there?
7 years.
7 years.
Yes.
And the maintenance team, have they changed in size since you lived there the past 7 years?
Well, believe it or not, guys that was working there since I've been there, the main guy, Ricky, who was the manager overall of the management team, the maintenance team, I'm sorry, he left a year next month. And the other two guys, they just left. He just quit. And so they had a maintenance guy come to my house last week. He said he had just started like the day before, and I see two other guys working there this new, but I guess they're all doing temp work or whatever. So I'm not sure.
Okay.
But it has been a big change of the turnover.
Is there a housekeeping or maintenance supervisor? I know you said one guy left a year ago almost, but
He was over the overseer of everyone, and I can honestly say he was the best manager in the maintenance department. So I have seen a big change because I pay attention to everything.
but there isn't one there now.
If it is, I don't know who they are.
There is one.
Okay.
There's maintenance.
He started sometime in the summer.
Does the maintenance
Oh,
person?
No, you can go. Finish.
But is there a separate person who manages the cleaning and grounds work, or do you think it's all one person?
I thought it would be
those
over.
those reports of the house. To the leasing. To only maintenance staff, like anything running, like things and.
It's just maintenance, and everything else falls to the.
Third
So
party.
you
To
have,
the third party vendor.
Got it. Okay.
also you have a third party vendor. They don't have like a porter that's already on site.
Correct, it's a third party.
It's a third party vendor. So they pay them to come on site and do it.
Correct.
So.
Sarah?
Oh, yeah, thank you. No, you're good. Thank you so much for coming to share your concerns. I'm also a tenant and I've been dealing with similar issues. So I know it takes a lot of time out of your day to come. I appreciate you coming. Just so I am understanding correctly, this started happening when the management company changed. Did I get that right? They switched,
Yes.
they switched management.
Yes.
Okay, and it sounds like trash is being left in the hallway by tenants in a violation of the lease agreement.
Yes.
I'm experiencing that too. It's very frustrating. It's a
And-
safety issue.
Right, and
Help
when I
issue.
go to the rental office to the leasing center to address it to Mr. Steptoe, it's always take a picture when you can easily walk
Yeah.
over to the building to see it for
Right.
yourself. Why do I have to do your job
Yeah.
for you?
Yeah.
So it's always like, and if I have a problem with a neighbor, it's like, shouldn't you send them a letter, call the police? Why should I have to keep calling the police when they clearly come to my house and then they direct me? It's not our problem, it's your management's problem.
Right, and Mr. Sepko, he's the building owner, just so I'm aware.
Yes, the leasing manager.
Leasing manager,
Yes.
Yeah, the trucker and Falk is the.
Yes.
Thanks for answering this.
Thanks for coming, Ms. Buckner. Right?
Yes.
So your Mr. Steptoe, sounds like your property manager actually gave you good advice, but probably not for the reason that he thinks or maybe you think. If you are able to document this kind of stuff, Mr. Steptoe most likely has a boss. He definitely has a boss. And if you're not getting satisfactory results from him, one thing to do would be to document these things that you see with your, everybody's got a smartphone these days,
Okay.
and document it and escalate it up the chain. Mr. Steptoe the buck does not stop with him. He reports to somebody. And I would bet that the landlord, the actual owner of the property, who's hired these third-party managers and also is paying for the third-party cleaners and things to come through, they're not getting the service that they should be out of those people. And if enough, so it won't take many, trust me, because I'm a landlord and I manage my own properties. So I can tell you that it's sometimes difficult when you deal with tenants who won't cooperate with the rules. You go by, they're in compliance, you turn around, an hour later, they're not in compliance. So I can't camp out outside of a tenant's apartment to catch them in the act. But you can take a picture and you can elevate it above Mr. Steptoe if he's not willing to respond. I know in the past, if this kind of thing continues, the commission's been willing to write letters on your behalf if you're able to submit evidence to the committee of pictures of the conditions that you're describing. And, we've been pretty effective when somebody gets, letterhead from Arlington County that says, hey, these things are going on, you guys need to look into it. They tend to pay a bit more attention. So I would definitely recommend documenting that as much as possible. And you might also just take a quick read through your lease and also see that, I'm sure there are obligations that the landlord has to provide a safe and sanitary home for you. And, you should call them out and say, hey, look, you're in violation of these, and here are the pictures to prove it.
Okay. I'll just say to Ryan's point, that's exactly what I've been doing in my situation. I have a folder on my phone actually where I take pictures, and it's called the bad neighbor folder. And I send, each time it happens, I send an email so that they have documentation. And I've also organized all the other folks who live in my building to do the same thing. And my building owner told me that that's actually really helpful to have that documentation and to have it from someone who's not just me. So I know that's not like the best answer to keep enduring the situation, but at least this way you'll have kind of a record so that if you do need to come back to us, we have something to kind of point to.
Sarah, I'm hurt. I don't understand. Why didn't you bring your
Well, maybe I need to sign up for public comment. I can show you the folder. I've been told that they're dealing with it. So in a month, I might be part of public comment.
All right.
You're gonna be here after.
Yeah.
I agree with my fellow commissioners. The only thing I'll add is this property came before this commission. Location plan. I think staff, we need to double check that they are still in compliance with everything. Yes, it definitely did. Ken Kraus was actually the chairman of the commission at the time, and she lived in Woodbury Park, so it's definitely
Maybe history.
Yeah, well, that's one of the best things about having Kieran on the commission. He's been around for a while. Well, that's helpful. We'll also reach out to the property and enforcement as well. They can do promises that find something specific to hit them over the head with, right? But this sort of behavior got that. Really, thank you for coming to help us and oh yeah, I'm sorry, Kristen.
Oh, well, yeah, I did want to close that before you. So just from a landlord perspective, obviously everything you said is not acceptable. Let's be very clear. I'm not, but I want to share that the Virginia landlord tenant laws protect both the landlord and the tenant. And there are a lot of privacy issues that a landlord has to maintain. And there are a lot of legal things that we have to do. So with regard to your neighbors who might be misbehaving or aren't following the lease, the landlord may, I'm not saying they are, may actually be doing the right thing, but it all takes time. There are laws called the 2130 where we have to give written notice, we have to have proof, right? Because we have to be able to go before a judge ultimately to say, you know what? We are going to evict this person from their home, put them maybe out on the street. So we have to have a lot of proof. And most landlords have a process. And there's no standard until you get to the legal part, which is that 2130. And then they can comply. And you can rescind the 2130, but if they so that they behave, like I think someone said, yeah, they're behaved for a little while and then they stop behaving. And then if it happens again, they can reenact it and it can go for termination. But any good landlord isn't going to tell you what they're doing
Gotcha,
because you wouldn't want us talking about you to your neighbor either.
gotcha.
And so I'm not telling you they're doing that,
Mhm.
but I did want you to at least know from the landlord's standpoint, it does take time.
Okay,
And then, heaven forbid you get to the eviction process, currently it's 6 months before you can get before a judge. And then if someone comes, you're not sure the judge is gonna take action immediately.
right,
So, but again, the landlord shouldn't be discussing that with you. And I just wanted to say that out loud.
okay.
Again, everything that's happening is wrong. But shouldn't.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate it.
So we'll get your information after the meeting and we'll follow up with you if there's any action that is taken by code enforcement or whoever avenues that we use. Property owner. Anything else before we move on to the next public comment? Great. We'll move.
Okay, I'm gonna stand up.
Great.
Okay. So, my name is Charles Jones. This is my wife, Paulette Jones. We have a daughter staying at 3316 Second Street, just right around the corner. She's had a terrible time with,
No, sorry. Okay.
okay, we've had a terrible time with her townhouse. It had flooded and had molded. And I have pictures here I can pass around because the pictures were 1,000 words. Just pass these around, make sure I get them back. But the bottom line is, this is how my daughter is living right now after the rainstorms back in early part of July. And she had water that came into the property. It molded, and she has 2 kids, so she has to get out. But she was not provided with reasonable accommodations. Reasonable accommodation, she had a 2-bedroom, 3-level townhouse. Paid $3,000 for it. They put her in a hotel that cost $300 a day. That was not reasonable accommodations. They needed to do a lot more than that. If we agree with that, you would understand why we were very upset about what happened to our granddaughter and our grandkids. I mean, these are people who can't talk for themselves. So, as you saw, there was a toilet out, 1 toilet, and they kept her out. They kept them out for about 5 days. They let her come back in the property. A month, I'm sorry. 5 days, a month. And the house is in disarray as of today. The bottom level is sort of like a basement area. They ripped out the rug. They've taken a lot of things that were hers personally, put them out on the backyard. They got rained on, damaged. So they created more damage than they did good. Now, all I'm asking, because we came directly to the commission when this first started back in August. Okay. Sounds like it's from July myself. But the bottom line is we came to you guys for help. We didn't get really anything, any kind of support. We talked to several people, and as they were doing nothing, we had to take our children and our daughter and have them stay in our place for a while. But long story short, we are going to move forward and sue them. But if you look at these pictures, you couldn't really want to live in any place like this, where they have, this is where.
10 seconds.
Huh?
10
10
seconds left.
Time is
Oh,
up.
okay. I know, 10 seconds. Give me a little bit more time like she did the other lady. So here is all that we can show. They're the pictures, graphic art. They speak for themselves. I don't have to say anything. You wouldn't like to live in this kind of scenario and pay rent. So one of the big problems is they didn't mitigate the damages. They threw a lot of things out, some of which were bad, but the bottom line is they are going to have to pay for that. Now we're bringing a lawsuit, but long story short, you guys can do a lot to keep these places reputable and livable. It was inhabitable for us. It's been inhabitable since July.
Thanks. You said you contacted,
Sorry, sir, for the record, you are who?
Charles.
It was
Jones.
probably under mine, Paulette Jones. We came in August and we were going to, I think you canceled the meeting or something. It was, yeah, there was a
Well,
meeting.
when this first started, came right here. We learned that there was a landlord-tenant commission. We came right here, knocked on the doors, told them our story. Nothing happened.
Well, they said the meeting was canceled.
We didn't have there is no August meeting for the.
I was thinking it was September.
September was.
September,
not held.
September, we didn't have a forum.
Yeah.
Do you know who you spoke with?
For the record, he spoke to me. It was on the morning of the meeting that was canceled, and I gave them all the information they required. I talked to them for like 40 minutes, 45 minutes. They also left messages with Ann Venetia, and I talked to them the following day too, following up on what they were doing or following the recommendations.
Well, I tell you what.
Okay, hang on, because we've had your comments, so we're just gonna have a back and forth now. So the Tenant Landlord Commission is a voluntary group of Arlington
Right.
citizens.
We
who-
appreciate that, yes.
Yeah, so when you came in and knocked on, right, the TLC, we don't live
Staff,
here. We don't work here. We have other jobs.
Understand,
And we meet once a month only.
understand, and
But
the
hang on,
people were here.
just let me explain. So you spoke with housing staff, is what I'm understanding, Hector and perhaps Andrew. Yeah,
No, I'm just hearing about.
okay. Let's back up and who is the landlord for your car?
Well, the management team is called
Real Property.
Real Property Management Pros.
Okay. So, and this is I'm not familiar with that.
So it's not, your townhouse is owned by an individual. They're going to be on your lease or your daughter's lease.
Yes.
And your property managers is RPM Pros, who I've heard of. I don't know them. Again, they work for the owner of your daughter's townhome.
Right, we understand.
So you can sue your landlord and your property manager for providing unsafe, unhealthy living conditions, and that's a violation of the lease. I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not going to try to give you legal advice. I mean, that's a separate path. What we try to do is provide resolution to disputes between tenants and landlords. So what's difficult for us is in this case, it's a one-off landlord. Not that we're not willing to try. Our levers are to contact the same people that you've been dealing with. Housing staff, which Hector, who you heard on the speaker here, is one of the housing staff members, and other departments within the Arlington County government. Code enforcement, building department, people like that go out and inspect for these kinds of things. If it's an unhealthy, unsafe living condition, the health department might also look into it. There are lots of different government agencies that actually have power to enforce. This is a commission that advises, and what we can do is, similar to the complaint you heard earlier, we can get some of these Arlington government entities to look into the situation. At the end of the day, what governs the relationship your daughter lives is the lease that she has with the landlord. If he's violated the lease, then she has the right to get out of it. And if you want to sue your landlord for damages, obviously you're within your rights to do that. That's a long process. You may decide it's not worth it. I don't know. You have to make that decision. But we can do some things, but we're limited to a degree in what we can do other than trying to resolve a dispute between your daughter and her landlord. So
We understand that, and we appreciate what you've done. We have an audience. I do appreciate the fact that we have come to talk to people and let them know. So maybe the next time this Real Property Pro people got together, you have some history on it. In fact, we're trying to find history on the property because we believe that it had flooded before when we got that.
So what I would recommend is go back and look at your lease. Okay, your lease is going to allow your daughter and her family to get out of the lease without any penalty. She can say the landlord defaulted, and then they can leave and they can find new, safe, housing, right? So that would be one recommendation potentially from me as a landlord. But read the lease. You got to act within the lease. That's the contract between your daughter and the landlord. The other thing too is I would also highly recommend having your daughter appear because technically you are not, even though you're her parents and you care about her. Okay, well, if you're on the lease, then you're one of the tenants.
Yeah.
So you need to read the lease
But
and
I
make,
don't live
no, understood. If you're on the lease, then you're on the lease. So, but that would be my recommendation. I don't know if we can act fast enough or if we can make recommendations to county government fast enough to get you the resolution you're looking for.
We're moving on this ourselves, and we would appreciate whatever you can do to assist. So we
I would
know we
recommend
don't
giving
expect.
this, I recommend giving this information to the commission,
Right.
a copy of it, so
No,
we have it.
We're
and-
gonna
yeah.
sue. We're gonna have to
Well-
go through a lawsuit and.
Well, but we're
Get the
separate
judge.
from that. That's the court.
I understand that, but I'm just letting you know that we are in the process of suing the landlord.
Anyone else have questions or comments?
Can you repeat that address again?
It's
On Second Street.
3316 Second Street, 3316 Second Street.
Okay, thank you.
Whenever he moved out, whenever she moved out, did she have to like terminate her lease? Or was she just moved out of her?
She would have to terminate. the lease. But, for cause, because she pays $3,200 a month. And so that's a lot of money. And she's got renting a level townhouse. She can only
Yeah, but whenever-
utilize 2/3 of it.
Yeah, but whenever she moved out, whenever she was moved out into a hotel,
Oh,
did they
yeah.
terminate the lease?
Well,
You couldn't, no, because what happened was, it's been 2 months and each time they extended her time. They said it would be a week, then it would be another week and things like that. So we're going to court tomorrow.
Is she paying, was she paying rent? Was
She
Yes,
paid the
correct.
rent. This,
Was she paying rent when she was out of the apartment?
yes,
You paid rent and then we escrowed.
yeah,
You
only
got-
this.
you already escorted your
Not
rent?
the first time, not the
Second
first month, but the
Okay.
second month we just escrowed, but
Because-
they required her to pay
Yeah.
unless they were going to evict her if she didn't pay.
Yeah,
the rent.
aside from like your lease, like Ryan said, that also governs her stay in the townhome. Virginia landlord tenant law also governs that lease, probably, I mean, it should. I'm assuming they have multiple leases that are in place. I would look at that, because if they displaced her for reason to like mediate her home, then she could have her rent abated back to when she was moved out of the home. So I would look at that too. She shouldn't have to pay rent if she was displaced.
Right.
Well, it's a gray area because you can also have a reasonable accommodation. So now, for example, you can't put 5 people in one hotel room.
Yeah.
If you put, 5 people in 2 or 3 hotel rooms for the period of time it takes to repair something, that could be construed as a reasonable accommodation. It's a little bit of a gray area here.
Well, I know reasonable accommodation is not 1 bedroom, 3 people.
No, there's going to be occupancy limits on the hotel room that she was in.
I was trying to help
Do you have legal
possible.
Say again?
Do you have a lawyer? Have you hired a
Oh,
lawyer?
We're gonna hire a
Yeah.
lawyer, yes. Mhm.
You do or you? or
We
not?
have hired a lawyer.
Oh, okay, then we'll tell you all that.
Well, yeah, you should, I would advise you as not your lawyer and I would advise you to file.
No,
your-
we understand, we have gotten. issue with a lawyer.
Anyone else have? Okay, well, again, we appreciate you coming. I'm sorry that, the last meeting was canceled. It was unfortunate.
Yeah.
We appreciate you coming to talk with us and, I hope that going forward with your daughter's accommodations go well.
We just wanted to put this, management company on notice, so as many people can
Yeah.
be familiar in case they come up again.
Yeah, we'll see if, it may be that they only have, 1 or 2 properties and a couple tenants. And in that case, it's more difficult for us to do anything. But we'll look into them and see what we can do and follow up. Great.
All right, well, we'll let
Thank
you
you.
go.
Good luck, both of you.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Glad to have the audience.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right.
And we'll be talking to you.
You ready?
Yes.
All right.
Hello,
Go ahead.
everyone. I appreciate the information you gave the lady earlier. I'm here just seeking a lot of information
information because I've done a lot of that I needed. I initially spoke with Graham Wine.
Oh, sure, Matt DeFranti.
Yeah. Right. So I started that process, and then I've been communicating with management, which is Whitefield Commons apartment. I'm the POA for my mother, Patricia Cargill, who has Alzheimer's and medical issues, also breathing issues. She has an ITP water issue. They had relocated everyone back in 2021 to a different location so that they could renovate. And they brought everyone back at the end of 20. Anyway, I've been trying to get them to do the reasonable accommodations, which is a grab bar in her bathroom, and the flooring. Although they claim they did renovation, it's these wooden planks that have some type of wood in between it. But when you vacuum, they just come right up, so you can see what's underneath. And I've been asking them to repair that. I'm not asking them for new flooring, but to reseal things. And the mice infestation and our tenant upstairs, which I have documentation and video of, when she drags her trash down the stairs. I mean, when she's coming out of her apartment. The clanking, the broken bottles, everything comes down that stairs. Food, you can see the mouse droppings, and raw egg and all of that. So I have documentation of that. And when you mentioned about it takes a process for them to get all that done, so I understand why she's still there. But just recently, the manager told me, "Oh, do I have pictures?" And I said, "Well, I'm not the only one complaining. Your cleaning department is taking photos, maintenance is taking photos. Even when I called the health department, maintenance and the health, the exterminator came, and the exterminator wasn't even able to stay in the apartment. That's how bad it is." So I wrote her back, just explaining that I don't think you need my photos because there are people telling you this verbally, and outside people are telling you this verbally. I was treated with retaliation and berated, saying
10 seconds.
standing up for my mom, that I'm being disrespectful and being rude and abusive, and they question how I'm caring for my mother. So they threatened me to say, well, we're going to look into how you take care of your mom. So they did put in the bar yesterday. They had one up first, and then they came the other day and did the other one, but they still haven't addressed the floor. And I'll see how they handle the mice and the tenant. So I'm really appreciative of the information that I'm gathering, because I've done, the latest thing I've done is the assertion report, and they'll hold that in escrow until the floor is repaired. So I've done that, and that's a court date on the 19th. So I am doing that paperwork, and I appreciate the information that I'm gathering here to just continue that. But I think my main thing is.
Over 3
Sure.
minutes, so we'll
Okay,
just
so-
ask you some questions.
Sure, thanks.
All right.
Can we just get you to restate the facts? Because I'm not clear on the facts.
Yeah, so let's start with your mother's in Whitefield.
Commons
Commons.
Apartments,
Does someone-
property management.
Westlake, okay.
Yes.
And where is that?
Wesley is in Buckingham, not right off of Lee.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Okay. And the mice issue, is that in your mother's apartment?
Yes, it's pretty much all over.
It's throughout the building.
Yeah, because I have tenants that have also.
Okay. And so they installed the drop bar like you asked? Right?
Yes, just yesterday they installed it, the last one, because they only initially put one in when she needs two. Because the one that they put in was too far for her to reach over and grab, so I asked them to put the other one, which is as she gets in, she can step in.
Okay, and then it sounds like there's an issue with the flooring as well.
Right, and they haven't addressed that yet,
Have they
although,
said that they will?
yes, many times. I have everything in writing. Oh, the contractor's coming today. Okay, I waited for the contractor did not come up. I addressed it to them when they came to put the grab bar in. They took a look, they said, well, okay, we'll get back to you.
Okay, about how long have you been asking?
Oh, over 8 months.
Oh, okay. The issue, there's also an issue with your neighbor as well, right?
Right.
Being disruptive, trash on the stairs.
Yes,
Okay.
she brings her trash down and it's always open trash, broken bottles, because I guess she's a drinker.
Okay.
So all of that comes down the stairs as well.
All right. So let's go and have some responses from you. Brian, did you have something?
Well, I always do, but.
Kick it off.
I'll let somebody else go.
I can feel your voice.
Well, no, I mean, I want to get the facts done first, so. Sure, because it wasn't
Did
clear
I,
when you
did
first
I
started.
clear
No,
that?
we got
Okay,
it.
I'm nervous. I'm trying to get everything
No,
in
no,
the
you're fine.
40 minutes.
I did a great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead, Karen.
I have spoken to you. And, we haven't terminated it.
Recently, yes, that's why I mentioned. When I called the health department, of course, that's when they sent out the exterminator.
Okay.
Although the exterminator claimed that they're scheduled every 2 weeks there, but that was the first time I ever saw it. So I don't know if they're just going to specific places or specific apartments to address that, but then since we've moved back in after the renovation, they've never been there until I called the health department.
Okay, and did they say anything about like follow-up treatments or anything, or did they like find the holes, were they coming in?
Yes, they did some patching, and the exterminator did some white powder. So my mother had to leave for like the weekend, the 3 days, because she couldn't be around that. So they did that, and the little, old time traps.
And bait boxes.
No bait box,
No,
but
they
just the
just
trap,
traps.
yeah, and that powder. So when the health department came, they took a sample of that because I didn't know that they did that. So he said I would take a sample. So I don't know what the outcome of that is.
And then the flooring.
Yeah, that's
They
still
haven't done
still have
anything
not
about
done
the
anything.
flooring. So the flooring is parquet floors, right? It's like from the 40s, I think.
Yeah, very, very
And
old.
it's historic to that building when they did the renovation or something, they didn't change the flooring. But
They didn't,
They
right,
remodeled, but they didn't change all of the flooring.
right.
So they didn't say anything about when they were coming out to try to seal it or anything.
No, that's the issue. The
The contract.
communication, the communication is more like retaliation because I'm speaking up and trying to get things done for my mother. And even asking for her account ledger, because I know that's nothing to do with Tenant, but asking for her account ledger as to her grant checks. Now, we used to have them come and she would endorse them because it's a two-party checks. So we haven't been getting that, and they've already deposited, but my mother's not endorsing them anymore because they claim, oh, we don't know where the checks are. They've been left at somebody else's apartment, and this woman just brought a box full of checks from, for different clients that are on the program, and they don't know where the checks are. So I said, well, may I have?
I'm sorry, can I interrupt? So you mentioned retaliation, which is a big thing. So
Yes.
what I'm trying to understand is how are you being retaliated, or how is your mother being retaliated against? So what,
Well, I'm
that's
not,
not clear to me.
I'm told that I'm being abusive and disrespectful. I'm not allowed to come to the office because I don't know how to speak to them, is what they're saying. And then threatening that they're concerned how I'm taking care of my mom. So these are things that transpired after I've been writing to them, explaining to them what's going on, and now they don't want to have anything to do with me. So everything I do is in writing. Asking for the lease is in writing.
They made any of those threats in writing?
To me, no, it was just the two of the manager, Dawn Reed, and Brianna. And that it was just, you know, my mom was sitting right there. They were just
Yeah.
berating me like.
So a lot of the advice that I would give you is the same advice that I would give to Ms. Buckner, who
Right.
led off the public comment period.
Right.
You know, if you're able to document this stuff.
Yes, I have.
And somebody above your, you know, these folks at your property, they have bosses. And they're
Right.
not gonna wanna hear about this kind of behavior.
Right.
And so putting that in writing, getting as much of it in writing as you can, taking photographs, you know, even though, you know, you said, you know, they've seen it or the contractors have seen it, take photographs.
Right.
Because they're not there to make your case for you, right? The exterminator, the contractor, the repair people, they're not there. Only you and your mom can stand up for your mom, right? So it's going to be on you, unfortunately, to do this. I'm sorry that you're going through this. I have a parent who has dementia. I'm power of attorney for my father, so I understand it's incredibly difficult.
Right.
So I sympathize.
Right.
But if you have to get action from people, you're going to have to document. And quite honestly, the more documentation you have, the more likely you're going to get their attention or somebody above them their attention.
Right, but I have done that. The CEO is Camilla McAfee, and I've seen everything I write to them, I CC her. And Dawn's supervisor, which is Lisa Davis. I've sent them photos, I've sent them written communication.
If you've gone through those steps, then the next step to be would be, I mean, I think the commission could look into some of the stuff that you're talking about and provide a referral to some of the departments in the county government that have the ability to enforce this stuff. Health department and.
We'll reach out, we'll ask some questions of and enforcement. Positions, Arlington County issues.
Right, and I've done the fair housing. Spoken to everyone that I think I can.
It sounds like you've done everything right.
Yeah,
So I'm
exactly.
sorry
That's why the
it's still
information
happening.
here is just so helpful because,
Yeah.
you know, at least I know I'm on the right track in what I'm doing.
You've already
shouldn't
gone
take
to the
this
court
long.
system, right? You've already done that? You've already,
Yes, I filed.
but you're ready to escrow, you said?
Yeah, I have a court date on the 19th. So I did the, is it called tenant assertion?
An assertion, yeah.
Yes, so I did that.
So you're paying your rent to the court, essentially?
Oh, yeah, well, my mother gets the Arlington grant. So, you know, we pay our portion, they get theirs. But I think the next thing I'm going to address is the fact that they're not letting me know when these grant checks are coming. And I spoke to her caseworker. I said, well, you know, just send them to us. Don't send them to the leasing because they're refusing to give me an account ledger of what's been paid, what hasn't been paid. Do you have a check? Do you not have a check? And over a month now, she hasn't done anything like that. She's always promising me, oh, I'll have it to you on Friday, but nothing.
That's a serious issue that we'll inquire about. Anything else from commissioners?
The only thing other I would say is that if you have a court date, I don't know if you're represented by legal counsel, and that can get expensive, but, you know, potentially a referral to, what is it?
LSNB.
I've done that, but they only deal with eviction. They don't deal with what I'm going through.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's, not in my experience.
Well, I've gone through Bogota.
Yes, sure.
Yeah, and they give me information. I've gone to the Virginia Legal Aid or Northern Virginia Legal Aid, spoke to them and explained my situation. They said they couldn't help.
What about legal services of Northern Virginia?
It may be that. I'm not quite
There's
sure.
two different, you
There's
just
two
named a
different
different
ones.
one. and-
Right, okay, there's another one.
So, yeah, maybe reach out their LSNB, legal services of Northern
Okay,
Virginia.
because there was one when I called the Office of the Aging, and they were so backed up that they didn't even return the call. They said they had to hire people to try and you know, kind of, the workload is a lot. So I haven't heard back from them. So I'm not sure if that's the one.
Anything else?
I guess we shouldn't really have to ask this, but do you actually have power of attorney here?
Yes, I have documented. Yeah, they asked me, well,
Well, that would make a difference in how they respond to you. I mean, it's,
yeah,
as far as like giving you access to things.
right.
Okay, thank you all for
Yes,
for
thank
coming in
you.
and giving
Yes.
your public comments. We're gonna move on to other business. You can stay if you like, or you can course.
I'm gonna head out because I have to be there for my mom, but
Okay.
yes.
Thank
Appreciate you all.
you.
Thank you. Oh, yes. Thank you.
Favor having.
All
We
right.
have her information, right?
You do, we
Yes.
have your email.
Yes, and I've spoken to
Our
Hector.
residential, yeah.
Okay.
Awesome. Appreciate you all.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Take care.
So Gail, hello, she is online and she
Yeah.
will be.
Go straight to Gail.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah.
Gail.
It's an honor to be with you tonight. Jennifer and Kara asked me to spend some time with you this evening talking about property management best practices.
Yeah.
I have to say, after listening to that, you know how badly, as a longtime property manager, I wanted to jump in and tell them it doesn't have to be that way. So I appreciate all of the wisdom that you gave to everyone. I'm going to share a presentation, and I think some of this may be basic for you, but I want to make sure that we all are starting from the same place in what expectations should be from a good property management company. So we'll get started. We'll run through this, and then I'll take your questions.
And Gail, I'm gonna begin really quick just to let you know, obviously our schedule has been thrown off quite a bit by early. So to the extent that you can shorten.
I absolutely will.
I hate to do it to you, but it is.
Nope. I totally get it. And I did share a copy of this presentation with Jennifer and Kara, so they can always give it to you later. You all know this, right? There's a ton of resources out there for residents. And not to mention the property rules and regulations, the screening policies. Every good property management should have a grievance policy. And I don't know who said it this evening, forgive me, but one of you said, have you read your lease? The lease is the contract, and that's what sets the expectations on both sides. Good property management companies make these things available to their residents. So I want to just put that out there. And the lease really is the place where all of those expectations are set out. It includes the community rules and regulations, the fees, like all of these things are already in writing. And a good property management company will spend time going over those contract requirements with the tenants before they sign. So, I know you all know this. I will say, though, having been in property management, 34 years, there are two sides to every story. And not reading the lease is not an excuse for a resident not abiding by the provisions. So I always ask them if they've read the lease, if they understand what it says. All right. This is where I wanted to spend a little bit of time with you because I think there's a confusion out there, and I hear it all the time. I mean, my company manages over 100 properties in the Mid-Atlantic region, all affordable housing. And tenants are often confused between their rights and their responsibilities. So what you're seeing on the screen is really what their rights are. And they do have the right to put their rent in escrow. I kind of wanted to jump in on a couple of those people and suggest that to them. Residents also have the right to participate in a tenant association or a resident council. If there's issues with the landlord, I think that they should gather together. And, that sort of association and council has strength in numbers. I think quiet enjoyment, we heard that one tonight. Confidentiality, you heard that one tonight. Fair housing is a big one. But the responsibilities for the tenants are to pay their rent on time and certify if it's an affordable property, abide by the rules and regulations, maintain the habitability of the apartment, obtain renter's insurance, and notify the landlord for timely for maintenance issues. And I'm glad that you all asked questions about that today because I think that's really important. Property management companies have priorities. You see them here on the screen. This is what they do. Maintenance recertifications for affordable communities. And they should be inspecting the homes, rent collection, customer service contracts, invoice processing. I think what I didn't hear from your public comments tonight was anything about resident engagement. That's a big piece of it. Communication, working together. That's a best practice. It sounds like some of these landlords aren't focused on that. I don't know how much sway you have in talking to these landlords, but we spend a lot of time at Enterprise focused on our residents, hearing their voices and engaging them in not just the operation of their property, but also in the governance of what happens there. So I do want to, I can't focus on that enough. Some best practices here, you know, I'm going fast and I appreciate you wanting me to do that, but property management should have a strict adherence to fair housing laws and state and local regulations. That's just it. That's what we do. We should be in units quarterly for preventive maintenance and habitability. And that is, that's key, making sure that the residents are doing their part to keep the unit up, that they're not overhoused, they're not doing anything illegal. That's a really important thing. Communicating with residents, it sounds in all three cases tonight, it sounds like the landlords aren't doing that, but newsletters, resident meetings, resident activities are good ways to build that trust with residents. And I think, you know, that sounded like it was missing in these cases. And responsiveness, that was also an issue I heard tonight, you know, promptly responding to leasing inquiries, work orders, resident concerns. That's just a basic. And then eviction avoidance is also something I did hear a little bit about this tonight, but housing stability, I think, is the responsibility of a landlord. There's some different avenues here that landlords can take. We focus very much so. We have a huge resident services team that focuses on housing stability, making housing a priority. The last thing we want to do is evict someone, so we do everything we can to keep them in their home. And then lastly, working with a management company, whether you are an asset manager, a housing authority, a resident, communication is key. Coming together on a regular basis, you know, whether it's meeting with the residents one-on-one, having resident info meetings or activities, collaborating with residents to solve problems, I think is the best thing that property management can do. And then for those who are overseeing a property management company, you know, like Kara and Jennifer, regular site visits to make sure that people are doing what they should be doing out there. So I went very quickly. I am more than happy to answer your questions. I'm going to try to stop sharing. It won't let me do it. Hold on. Let's see if I can stop sharing. There I am. So happy to answer any questions. I heard a lot of really good advice around the table tonight. So I was very impressed with your group and how you have approached these issues. But I by the way, I've also offered to both Jennifer and Kara to be you know, resource for them if they ever have questions about which way to turn on an issue that's before them. So I welcome your questions.
Yeah, that was really helpful. Part of the reason we wanted to have a presentation like this, and you've done a great job, is because we've dealt with a lot of management companies that are having repeated issues, and then residents from the same properties come and talk with us. So it's helpful to hear, you know, what it seems like is lacking in a lot of the residents' complaints who come to us, particularly with regard to engagement. That seems like something that we should be trying to figure out a way to help management companies, you know, give resources to them. I know we have, you know, like tenant summits and things like that, and I'm curious if you know, over the the next 6 months or something, we can come up with a similar idea with maybe some of these best practices to go and reach out to problem management companies and help. But that's just in the back of my mind here. Any thoughts from Commissioner Sarah?
Yeah, I'll just say I would love for Gail to be my property manager. As someone currently I feel like at war with my horrible property manager, this sounds like a dream, and I guess I would challenge us to think about what's even in it for those property management companies to engage with us, because it's the most demoralizing, powerless feeling to email someone and not even get a response back, even when I call out sections of my lease in Virginia law and Arlington code. So I don't know. I guess that's just me voicing a frustration that I know a lot of people in my building face, and we've heard from people tonight. I don't know what the stick is to get these folks to engage, especially as the lease is written and as state law is written.
Yeah, and we do, to be fair, do sometimes hear about resident engagement programs. In particular, what's coming to mind for me, Lara Croft talks about that all the time. Invitations to us, and I'm sure we have here excellent job on that. But it's sort of like an inchoate idea for me right now, and maybe it's not achievable. But yeah, Ryan.
Well, the cynic in me is going to say that people that are in this room are here because we care, right? So I mean, everybody gave good advice all around, and that's because we're engaged in what we do every day. Unfortunately, you can't force a company, especially when it comes down to dollars and cents. They're paying rock bottom, or they're trying to scrape every nickel off of their residents or whatever. You can't force them to change their worldview. And so while we can offer these things, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Unfortunately, it's going to be more of a stick than I think a carrot. Here's how you be a good manager. A lot of the bad managers don't care about being a good manager. So I was just going to say, so I mean, I would love to find a way to do that. But I think, unfortunately, for people who don't care about their residents, what you can do is be responsive to, tenant complaints and things like that. Refer them on in a timely manner to the county government that can do something. Mm-hmm. When I hear about mice and when I hear about people being abusive and things like that, I mean, it bothers me because we don't do those things, and it bothers me that other people have to put up with it. Last thing I would say is, a lot of owners hire third-party managers, and they have no idea what's going on at their property.
Right.
So that's a reason we don't third-party manage. We do only our own properties, and because I want to know what's going on. I want to take care of my tenants because they're my customers. And I know, Kristen, you said that before. Aaron, you said that. So, I mean,
maybe that's part of the stick.
Well, I was going to say maybe that's something we consider is saying, publicizing
owners.
Something, saying we've heard this many complaints about Gates Hudson Community Management in this amount of years, and we give them an F. And that's what we publicize to renters. And I don't know, I'm just spitballing here, but I'd love to think more about this.
So rather than grade, which I think would be very hard to do, if we, instead of providing the kind of information that Gail presented to property management companies, which is your idea, might be a better idea to provide them to landlords who have hired third-party property managers and say, is your third-party property manager doing these things?
A checklist for
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because otherwise they don't see it, and they probably never go to their property, or rarely. They get a check and they figure everything's okay.
Well, I definitely think this is something I'd like to have us explore, especially in a subcommittee, to sort of develop these ideas, make them sharper. As we all know, it's really difficult to get sort of free thinking done in the short time frames we have once a month. Seems to me like this would fall under outreach potentially, to the extent that.
And you?
Yeah.
To the extent that the people in outreach are still interested in.
I'll say that when we talked to Alexandria, they said that they were able to get either landlords or property management companies more interactive with them, because there are things that I guess it's landlords need from the county, and the county will help you more if you work with them more too. So working with the county could have a little bit of a.
I just love to explore what options there are, even if it's just us influencing. Again, we're an advisory body. Even if we're just influencing the county board to take specific action, advising them on that, that would be like a very useful thing. So
Well, I think having a new employee whose sole responsibility is to handle, I mean, and you're never gonna be able to do it alone. But the fact that we have one full-time person who seems to be committed to this goal of getting the landlords and the tenants on the same page is huge. I mean, it's a big step for the county, and I hope that you're so busy you have to advocate heavily for a second or a third, because it's gonna be those site visits by you. It's gonna be you getting to know who all these people are. They're not gonna want to talk to you anymore, right? They're gonna get tired of you stopping by, popping in,
ignoring my email.
Right,
But that's not.
right. But you won't be able to do it all. I'm quite sure. But I think it's a great step for the county.
Aside from the enforcement thing, though, if you are going to use, I know I started the other way where I'm saying we should use a stick, but if you do want to use a carrot, nobody buys a piece of property to rent out and make an income off of with the idea that I want to be a slumlord. I mean, there might be somebody out there, but almost nobody does that. And so if you said, hey, how do you make sure that your property manager is getting the most done for you and your property, and you provided the information Gail provided, that might be an interesting thing. Because the landlord is the owner. The agent, or the property manager is an agent of the landlord. So really it's the owners and the tenants, and that's where it's got to come from.
yeah, definitely.
I guess Gail, what's your comment about that? So one of the big organizations we hear from is AHC for many years, and they always have told us that they have different property management than the ownership. So what's your opinion on that?
So I have, right now I am managing a captive portfolio, so I'm not doing any third-party management, but I have worked in third-party management for a very, very long time in my career. And, there's good companies and bad companies out there. And I will tell you that right now, it's a really hard time to be a property manager. Insurance rates are going up incredibly. I mean, I shudder to tell you how much ours increased, but it was over 100%. Wages are going up, supplies, contracts, all of that stuff. So financially, it's really tough to manage these properties. And rents, of course, did not grow at all during the pandemic. We can raise rents now, but there's, 3 years of unrealized compounding rent increases. So it's really tough out there. And I think the economics of the job market aren't helping in property management. So I'm giving you some of those realities. It doesn't excuse non-responsiveness and bad management practices, abusive talk, or all of these things that we heard tonight. But it is a lot of pressure on this industry right now. And I think, I think for you, although I hate to advocate for this, but using those sticks that you talked about, whether it's code enforcement, the health department, I don't know, adult protective services, like there's a lot of governmental bodies that can be called upon to make sure that bad landlords are doing the right thing. And you do it enough to a landlord and they're going to get the picture. I believe me, I tell my team, we avoid getting on anybody's bad list as much as we possibly can. It does happen from time to time, but it's an effective tool for sure.
Well, thank you so much for your presentation, Gail. I think we should continue to explore this idea. I think it should probably be done in subcommittee. So let's table it for the moment until we have subcommittee reports, and then we can bring it back up at the end of the meeting. For now, I saw that Ileana, you're available, and Gail, thank you again.
You're welcome. Happy to help anytime.
Yeah,
thank you.
Presentation as well. Yeah. All right. And Ileana, I saw you're here. Is that great? Take it away whenever you're ready.
Hi. Okay, I'm not sure who's speaking, but my name's Alana Krenin, and I'm the legislative liaison for the county. Apologies that I'm a little bit late tonight, just made it back from Richmond from the day. So I just wanted to kind of give you all a brief overview of what to maybe expect this upcoming session. I know that commission letters are due on, I guess, this Friday. So thank you in advance for submitting your priorities. I'm happy to talk through any of them with you tonight. A little bit about kind of the legislative package process and then into a little preview of what to expect for session. So the process includes conversations with commissions like you, all the other commissions that would like me to come and speak, as well as our county staff, our board members, other members of our delegation, like their senators and our delegates. And after talking with everyone, we kind of formulate our legislative package, and it's meant to be as broad as possible while being specific at the same time. And that way it gives us leverage to talk about and advocate for issues in Richmond that are important to us. The legislative package will be presented at the November board meeting. We're probably going to look at that Tuesday, so that way it is post 1 week after the election, so we have time to kind of digest the results of the election prior to presentation. We will have public comment at that meeting, and then we will have a work session with our General Assembly delegation and the board on November 28th, followed by adoption of the package on the December meeting, and then session starts January 11th. Legislative session this year is 60 days, so it's a long session, so it will hopefully end by the middle of March. And this year, we will have a new 2-year budget coming out the day after the board meeting in December. And so that budget is Governor Glenn Youngkin's opportunity to present a 2-year budget. We don't know the results of the election right now, and his budget will likely be more conservative and tax cut focused should the Democrats either lose one or both the House or the Senate. And shall it be both the Democrats take the Senate and the House, I expect there to be a little bit more compromise in his budget coming forward. Right now, it is neck and neck in all Senate races and all House races. We really could see it being 50-50 in the House, 20-20 in the Senate. It's going to depend on, a variety of factors. Right now, the polls are all leaning in the Democrats' favor, and there are pathways for the Democrats to take control in both. But the, tides can turn any day, any issue. We still have, just under a month to go. So with all of that said, some of the issues that I see coming up this year in the package right now, we have support for local authority for zoning, as well as support for our housing trust fund, that those will remain, as well as our tenant rights piece from last year about supporting eviction prevention for our vulnerable residents of Arlington. I also see Nadarius Clark reintroducing his bill from last year related to rent stabilization, and we are working with Adele McClure on her tenant rights bill related to the where tenants were evicted with a 14-day notice. I think there was about 50 units due to a boiler room fire. And so working with her to kind of tighten up that language so that there's maybe more time and notice of eviction, as well as working with her to make sure that it's more structural and less cosmetic damages.
Ronnie, you up there just for a moment when you were describing the last bill. Can you say it again, what it is?
Yeah, so Adele McClure recently, and I don't know if y'all have heard about this, I think Arl now covered it. Yeah, I see some head nods. There was an incident at Crystal Plaza in Crystal City where 50 units were evicted. And so we are, yes, keep going. Okay. And so we're looking more specifically at that code section and working with Adele, working with the owner of the building, because right now the way that the code section is written is they are only required to give 14 days notice of eviction by law, looking to potentially expand the amount of days So I don't know what that, to what number that will be. And also, the way that the damage is described and what constitute grounds for eviction, it's very broad. So maybe making it more of, it has to be more structural or, something that's bigger that, it's unsafe to actually live there versus, the way it's worded right now, you could technically argue it could be a very cosmetic type change. So just tightening up the language with her. I don't have a draft of that bill yet. We're still working on that, but that is something I anticipate supporting when she does bring it forward.
Okay, anything else?
And that's what I've got. I'm really here to listen. If you all have any ideas or anything that you want to share with me about what you're going to put in your letter, things like that, whatever.
Yeah, well, so we were going to meet about legislative priorities last month and had a quorum issue, and so weren't able to do so. I would like to make at least one sort of broad recommendation. I know the Housing Commission made 3, but that's sort of for us to talk about today. Unfortunately, it's just a timing issue with the last meeting being canceled. What are you doing?
Well, the only thing I was going to say is, remember when we were talking about that in the outreach subcommittee about the ability for a county board to impose upon landlords a requirement to communicate certain information. I keep bringing up the recycling thing.
Yes.
But that was something that was maybe in the gray area as to whether or not county boards had the ability to do that.
Yeah.
So if there was more discretion around county boards allowing for, based on, whatever the county board considers or in the jurisdiction that you're talking about, in other words, it wasn't strictly delegated from the state, but to give a bit more broad power for local municipalities to, to enforce required communications to tenants, not just affordable tenants but all tenants.
Right.
Along the lines of what we've been talking about, but it could be anything. It could be a health and safety thing. It could be, for example, we have to provide the Virginia tenant the rights and responsibilities thing now. I mean, where did that come from? So that adding that and giving that power a little bit more locally, I think that might be something we would consider.
I would agree.
I agree, and I think we've talked about that quite extensively here. It's something discussed a lot, and I think that I would definitely be for putting that forward. Again, we don't have to only do 1. Housing Commission did 3. We could do 17, but I'm thinking in the interest of time and the fact that we lost last meeting, we do 1 or 2, maybe 3. I think that should probably be at the top of our list. I can go through the issues that the Housing Commission mentioned, and we can also talk about those that it's Alana, right?
Alana, yes. And in case this helps, I usually say just put in your top 3. I tend to really just look for the top 3, and if people give more than the top 3, I just read 1, 2, and 3. That way it's just kind of, fair to everyone. So
this is why we have this presentation.
Exactly. So I mean, try to narrow it down to 3. If you need to put 4 or 5, you can, but I mean, brevity is great here.
I'll just say I'm really excited about Adele and her candidacy. I helped her organize a tenants town hall a couple weeks ago, and we heard from the folks at Crystal Plaza who were evicted on short notice, and I think that's where she got the idea for the bill. She herself is a renter, and I think she'll just be a good voice for renters and tenants in the assembly. So I'm interested in that piece of legislation, and I know she's working closely with Nadira's clerk on the tenants' rights bill as well.
Okay. Let's do it this way. I think we've done this before in past times. I'm just going to go around really quick to the commissioners, and if you want to give me your top 1, we'll try to come to a consensus on 1 to 3. Does that make sense? Yeah.
We submitted this last year, and none of them got what do we? Right. What are those 3?
Yeah, Roll. Do we have that letter from last year?
If you don't, I can either search through my email to find it, or I can just give you a template that I'm giving people that basically is like, hey, like here are our priorities, and it just goes 1, 2, 3, and then it's the same thing.
I'm more like, if we had priorities last year that didn't get addressed, that we should,
Okay.
those should also, they're probably priorities for us.
Let me see if I can find it. Give me 1 second.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've re-upped it and it's, there's been like a feeling of futility over the last couple of years.
I
Yeah, I don't know if I can get-
I thought we went into more detail last year than we have.
Ensure rights to counsel for tenants in eviction cases, prior neutrality of attorney's fees, guarantee habitability and minimum living standards.
All right, is it, I have it. Is it helpful if I share my screen?
Great.
Yes.
All right, these are from,
November 2nd.
perfect. All right, it's a 2-page document, so I'm only gonna be able to share 1 page at a time. But let's see what I can do here.
Maybe you can tell us which of the ones from past years we should drop because they're not going to get passed.
Okay, that works too. Okay, so for all of my visual learners, I have it up. So let me just grab it for you real quick. All right. Okay, so we have ensuring the right to counsel for tenants in eviction cases. So we have right to counsel. We have the requiring mutuality for warranty of habitability and minimum living standards. If I have to be completely honest here, like
Please do.
if one body, either the Senate or the House, goes Republican, like most of these are dead. There's even the chance that the governor, even if we have, a Democratic Senate and a Democratic House, will veto anything we do here. Just because looking at some of these issues, they're a little more progressive in the way that, they're giving more, I guess you could call it like mutual aid or social services to more vulnerable populations. And that's just kind of not how Governor Youngkin thinks. I'm just trying to be as diplomatic as I can be here, but I apologize if there's anyone in the room that feels differently. Like I'm just
Please,
okay.
I'm not expressing
You're not
an opinion.
opinionated,
I'm
right?
saying thank you for speaking your mind.
Yes. Okay. So
Because it's helpful.
so if I had to be quite honest, I think this habitability is probably the most likely to get passed because that seems to be an issue that you can really somewhat find consensus on because the Republicans are like, oh, if renters can't live because there is mold or because there is some kind of health concern, they're more likely to find common ground on that. And then, I would say that one is the most likely to pass, but I can completely understand why, wanting the right to counsel or the mutuality of attorney's fees is still really important to us.
Okay. That's great. We'll use that as the jumping off point. I'm also just going to go through very quickly the letter that Housing Commission did.
Okay.
And they did 4, not 3. I misread it. The first was to grant authority to Virginia localities to enforce tenant rights and protections under the VRLTA, especially with regard to health and safety conditions. This is one that the county board apparently includes basically every year since 2021, and it has been put forward and vetoed after being passed by, this is HB 802.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like 2 years in a row, I think.
Yes.
The second is increase the required percentage of accessible units, type A, for new developments in the Virginia Building Code. The third is enhance anti-retaliation protections for tenants who form tenant association and seek to enforce their rights under the Fair Housing, VRLTA, and Virginia Uniform Statewide Building Codes. Final one is establish a Virginia mold remediation fund and provide pre-mold testing to Virginia residents. Let's just have a couple more minutes of discussion and then let's try to come to a consensus. I'm just going to go around. Who's ready to talk about what they're thinking first?
I already did mine, so.
Great, Emily.
I think the third one here. I
Okay.
forgot what it's called. But
Yeah, the warranty of
I
habitability.
think the consistency was recommended again, and it being the one that I have, and I think it does align with some other.
A lot of what we hear.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if we're ranking, I do habitability, but I wouldn't let that prevent us from putting a wish list up, even if we know it's not gonna pass, because having proof that we've done it a couple times, give us 2 or 3 years, and maybe we'll have a different chance given different political odds, something to point to.
So with that, what is what's next on your wish list?
You know, what was discussed by Alana, the Adele building in areas.
No, I agree. I think habitability, stems from the Serrano for this
Yeah.
group, but also, I think tenant right to council. But we don't know if it's going to pass. Nobody knows the election results, but
Okay. Aaron.
Three.
Okay.
Yep, I'd go 3, Ryan, and right to council.
Just allowing local municipalities to be able to enforce, certain required communications and other directives regarding landlord-tenant relations.
And I think those would be my top 2 in that order. Warranty of habitability and then the thing we've been discussing for most of the year. Okay, so it sounds like there's a broad consensus for warranty of habitability. I'm going to say that's on our list. The second, it sounds like also there is at least a plurality that are vested in the ability for Arlington County to basically mandate passing out these materials, right? What do we want to put as the third? I heard a couple for.
So Alana said, go with what you think has the best chance. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think you have to have 3 just to have 3.
We don't have to.
I mean, I would rather make a stronger case for 2 we really believe in and think have a chance. I mean, to your point, it's good to put what you want, but at the same time, it also dilutes the message.
And just a straw poll, would anybody be against those 2 that I just mentioned? Would everybody be voting in favor? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. That sends a pretty strong message to me. I think, Housing Commission, it's always impressive to see when it in favor. That's what I would suggest doing. Do we want?
Can I make a motion to approve David's? I didn't say
Sorry.
but yeah. David's list for the legislative priorities.
All right, all those in favor of what we've just described?
Aye.
All right, the ayes have it, and it's unanimous. Thank you very much, Alana, for your presentation.
welcome.
It was very useful. We'd love to talk to you again next year earlier.
Absolutely, absolutely. You all make my job so much easier. You guys are amazing to talk with and work with. So thank you, appreciate it. I'll look forward to receiving your letter by Friday, and thank you.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate all your hard work.
All right, we're just going to close up with some subcommittee reports, and then we'll revisit the discussion we were talking about with sort of the undefined idea of getting property managers to do better. Emily, I think you're first in the commission and the subcommittee reports.
Yeah. Okay, so alternate dispute resolution subcommittee, we had intended to have a letter for you all to actually read and do that, but I have our list of recommendations that we are going to make that I'll go over, look for consensus, and then have something more formal for us to actually have for the record. So the first is for the subcommittee recommends that TLC work with county staff to develop the following. One, a more robust public comment process, including inviting landlords to public comment when applicable, and the formal tracking of public comments and resolution. Two, the documentation that can include the flow charts to detail the process of calls or inquiries to the housing division from intake to resolution. Three, for the tenant landlord have a tenant landlord glossary to define common terms and ensure terms are used in all documentation countywide. Or other approaches for how TLC members can assist with resource navigation that aligns with other Arlington County efforts. I think we did a good job demonstrating that today. And I'll go through all of these and then I'll come back. So that's with working with TLC. So I believe that would look like the continuation of work from the subcommittee. We recommend to Housing Division County staff to provide education to TLC on what resources Housing Division staff has to address calls or public comments from tenants and how those resources would differ from CAF versus non-CAF properties. To start providing a summary of calls or inquiries handled at the beginning of TLC meetings, and then include any trends from Housing Division staff is noticing. This can either be like a regular item on the agenda or set ahead time. To start tracking the resolution status of phone call inquiries and follow up on unresolved issues from callers who provided that contact information, and also to strengthen data collection from call resolutions to be able to view trends on property management and resident issues. Today, from our understanding, is when you get something, there's a system that you enter data in, and then you can't edit it afterwards. So that's something that we will look at. And then recommending to Arlington County as a whole to better support cross-division resolution by improving information shared between Housing Division and to enable Housing Division to follow up. Just greater visibility into what we're doing. Our recommendation is that we would go through these items, a subset or that, before looking into another alternate dispute resolution to strengthen what the county has has in place and for the TLC before introducing another resource that might confuse our tenants. That, trying to go quickly.
Yeah.
Go wherever you want.
Well, all this sounds good to me, and I appreciate all the time that the ADR subcommittee has put into it. I'm a reader. I'm a visual learner, as Alana said. I'd love to see that, in a finalized letter format before we make a final decision on it. And in light of the time patience today, I would suggest that we push adopting it until.
Yes. I think too, I'd like to see with your rules how that fits in here before we recommend anything that's kind of against what you're already looking.
Yeah, here's what I'd suggest is you finalize the document, we'll have it sent out to the commissioners, and then we ask for feedback from staff on it before we finalize our discussion and issue a recommendation next month. Does that make sense? Other comments or questions on it? All right, excellence. Outreach. Brian.
Well, I'd like to start my report by complimenting Emily with her very comprehensive report. I'd like to follow up by saying that regrettably, the outreach subcommittee has not met or done anything since we had our meeting with Matt DeFranti this summer. I will say also, though, that there was some, I don't think we've seen the materials that were being developed by the housing division that were discussed for, remember when we had in June or something? I haven't seen those.
Pretty sure
Did everyone get?
It's possible I missed it, but I'll have to look through that, because the idea was that I think the next step for us was to develop a draft of something that we could then present to Member DeFranti. So I just haven't had a chance to do that yet.
And that's okay. It's been so there's no problem. Let's just make sure we get a meeting subcommittee.
Is Matt Royer still part of the commission?
No,
Yeah, that's what I thought. So we're gonna need to reappoint
yeah.
someone to the.
And we've got
Just out of curiosity.
a few openings that are on me to push to finish getting filled. Friends.
What are the openings?
I think we have an opening for each position. Is that right? Yeah.
On public interest.
Matt was public interest.
Hold on, before we go to appointing new, can I, or asking for, is anybody interested in volunteering for outreach subcommittee? Because it's down to Kieran and me. You will?
Excellent.
Chris Wimbush is on there.
Chris is still, but he is finishing out his term and it ends within the next couple, January. So for all intents and purposes,
He's not gonna be reappointed.
he didn't want to renew.
Oh, got it.
His 3-year term is done.
I think it's on another.
Understood, right?
Yes. He's been excellent during his time here. Thank him for all that publicly and I've done it privately as well. We'll miss him. Anything else then? Somehow, some way, we're only finishing 6 minutes late.
Motion to adjourn?
Yeah.
So
Please.
before we do, I just
Oh,
wanted to
thank you.
point out very quickly that this is Affordable Housing Month, and so there are a few events that are actually taking place. And our website is not great, but I can send out a link, but it's 3 events. October 17th is Lunch and Learn on affordable housing, the housing plan update. It's a brand new book to the plan. We do this, I think it's plan, the report is done yearly. And then the CAF survey report that everyone has been looking for, that is good. Take place on that. Then on October 21st, there's a housing maintenance workshop. That's taking place at the Career Center. That's open to the public. There are about 6 workshops that they do, 6 time slots, 6 workshops that are taking place. That's a Saturday. And then there's also going to be an affordable housing tour. And that's, the bus tour. That's number 28. And that has to be, you have to RSVP for that, but it's on the website. I can send it.
Could you send an update with all that information
I will
in an
send
email?
it.
Thank you.
Well, is the lunch and learn for
Everyone
landlords, tenants?
is open.
Everybody.
Would love to make one or multiple myself, and to the extent that commissioners can go, it's always good to have us out in the events. Okay. Anything else from staff? Great. Okay. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Can I renew my motion to adjourn?
You may.
No.
Any opposed? All
No,
right.
you're opposed.
That concludes the
Have fun
October
saying
11,
it.
2023 meeting of the Tenant Landlord Commission. Thank you all for coming.